Umkhonto we Sizwe, Kosa, Zulu, and Ndeb meaning Spear of the Nation, abbreviated MK, was the paramilitary wing of the African National Congress, ANC, and was founded by Nelson Mandela in the wake of the Sharpeville massacre. Its mission was to fight against the South African government. After warning the South African government in June 1961 of its intent to resist further acts of government-instituted terror if the government did not take steps toward constitutional reform and increase political rights, Umkhonto we Sizwe launched its first attacks against government installations on December 16, 1961. It was subsequently classified as a terrorist organization by the South African government, and banned. For a time it was headquartered in Rivonia, then rural but now an affluent suburb of Johannesburg. On July 11, 1963, 19 ANC and Umkhonto we Sizwe leaders, including Arthur Goldreich and Walter Sisulu, were arrested at Lily's Leaf Farm, Rivonia. The farm was privately owned by Arthur Goldreich and bought with South African Communist Party and ANC funds, as non-whites were unable to own a property in that area under the Group Areas Act. This was followed by the Rivonia trial, in which 10 leaders of the ANC were tried for 221 militant acts designed to foment violent revolution. Wilton Kwei, chief of Umkhonto we Sizwe at the time, escaped during trial. The organization was formally disbanded in a ceremony at Orlando Stadium in Soweto, Gauteng, on December 16, 1993, although the armed struggle had been suspended earlier, during the negotiations to end apartheid. Spear of the Nation, Umkhonto we Sizwe, MK, was created on 16 December 1961, as the armed wing of the African National Congress, ANC. In the light of the African nationalism and the anti-apartheid movement, Nelson Mandela founded the MK with a mission to fight South Africa's SA apartheid government. There were a series of events that shaped the ANC's concept of creating an armed struggle. Although the meaning of the group is Spear of the Nation, the ANC approach in fighting against the government initially was nonviolent and peaceful. The ANC, along with the South African Communist Party, SACP, and the members of the Congress Alliance, the South African Indian Congress, the Congress of the Democrats, and the Colored People's Congress aimed to the recognition of black people's rights by the SA government. However, the fact that in the 1950s and early 1960s the government implemented laws and restrictive measures showcasing further isolation of the black people, made the ANC, SACP, and the Congress Alliance to review its approach and tactics for freedom and equality. What led to the formation of ANC's armed wing? Creating an armed struggle was not an easy decision for ANC, especially when its president of the time, Chief Albert Luthuli, had embraced the nonviolence stance. Additionally, when the ANC took the decision to create the Umkhonto we Sizwe as its armed wing, the party was banned under the Unlawful Organization Bill of 1960, meaning that by launching the group it would also jeopardize the Congress Alliance. Despite the two successful ANC campaigns, the 1952 Defiance Campaign and the Western Areas Campaign, the party counted a series of direct campaigns which failed to achieve substantial political change in the context of moderation and nonviolence. That said, as soon as it was clear that the passive resistance had no results, the idea of MK as an armed struggle started to take full shape. The taking up of arms decision was triggered by the Sharpeville massacre and the Langa March. On the 21st of March 1960, the government used violence to stop the peaceful Pan-African Congress, PAC, demonstration in Sharpeville, killing 69 people and injuring 186 others. On the 30th of March 1960, 3 people were killed and 27 injured during fights with the police under the anti-pass campaign in Langa, Cape Town. In June of 1961, Mandela proposed turning to violence to the ANC National Executive, to the Congress Alliance Joint Executives, and its formal allies, indicating the formation of an armed struggle. Not all of his counterparts or senior members agree with the proposal, including Luthuli. However, they finally agreed that Mandela would form an independent group to conduct sabotage, and actions of violence against the government, while the ANC and the alliance member organizations would continue the nonviolence stance. Training and military training. Umkhonto we Sizwe was founded after consultations by SACP members with the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party, Mao Zedong. In October 1961, SACP members visited Beijing to meet with Chairman Mao before setting up a training camp. Mao suggested that MK do not blindly follow the Red Army tactics, but choose the approach of Front de Libération Nationale, FLN, in Algeria. The group received training assistance by China, the USSR, East Germany, Marxist African states, and Cuba. Within 6 months from its formation, the group had almost 250 members from both the ANC and the SACP. Given that MK was formed under harsh conditions, the only common knowledge that its members had was the strong will to fight against the apartheid regime. The camps often lacked food, clothing, and health facilities. In this context, there were commissariats in each camp, responsible for the soldiers' general education and well-being. General education and training included a wide range of areas from agriculture and literacy classes to nursery and advanced motor mechanics. Military training courses and lectures aimed to advance the skills of the troops and made them capable of conducting and operating the tasks of the liberation struggle. Military subjects included physical training, military tactics and engineering, firearms, anti-air weaponry, even lectures on political science and the art of warfare. The duration of the training depended on the mission for which the units was being prepared and could run from 3 weeks to 3,6, or 9 months. The role of USSR in the liberation struggle. Following the Sharpeville massacre and the ANC and POC banning, the USSR enhanced its formal ties with SA, contributing to the liberation struggle against the apartheid regime. In July 1960, Vela Pillay, a founder member of the anti-apartheid movement, and Yusuf Mohammad Dadou, a key player of the movement, went to Moscow to discuss with the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, CPSU, about the situation in SA. They agreed on a $30,000 USSR donation to the SACP for the people affected by the Sharpeville massacre. In December 1962, Pillay and Arthur Goldreich from SACP visited Moscow to discuss the training of MK cadres on African soil, Operation Mayabai. By 1963, a camp was built in Tanzania offering USSR training to MK soldiers. The USSR took on the group's training needs, especially in specialized areas, even earlier than 1962. In 1986, a group of MK soldiers was sent to the former Soviet Union to get extensive training in conventional warfare. Being the only willing country to offer military training at the time, the USSR provided its services to Umkhonto we Sizwe, offering training that could last from 2 to 4 years. The liberation struggle and the catalytic contribution to Angola. The first phase of the sabotage campaign took place on the 16th of December 1961, and it was the first Umkhonto we Sizwe violent actions against the SA government. The group used homemade bombs to attack government installations, and other symbols of the apartheid regime such as police stations and post offices in Johannesburg, Port Elizabeth, and Durban. The attacks were not lethal, as the targets were empty at the time. The Umkhonto we Sizwe High Command strictly advised its soldiers to avoid all loss of life, since its main goal was to cause a psychological effect in the white population and make the government change its policies before matters reach the desperate state of civil war. In May of 1962, Oliver Tambo and Robert Rishaw, who were ANC representatives abroad, co-authored a memorandum explaining to the government of Ghana that these attacks were just the first phase of a comprehensive plan for the waging guerrilla operations. Indeed, between 1969 to 1979 MK moved from sabotage to guerrilla warfare, fighting against the pro-apartheid state, always aiming to avoid the loss of civilian lives. The approach included guerrilla operations in both urban and rural areas of SA, including economic infrastructure such as railways, and communications networks, military and paramilitary police forces, and again government installations. Guerrilla warfare ran for almost a decade, however, It ended after the secretly negotiated peace agreement between MK and AP government intelligence. On the 16th of June 1976, started a series of demonstrations by black South African school students in Soweto. The security forces responded with massacres and atrocities enhanced, even more, the MK's will to fight the state enemy and defend the people. The Soweto uprising gave a strong boost to MK and the opportunity to both the ANC and the POC to recruit and train these young men and women who were afraid to be captured by the security forces. The youths were trained in MK camps in Eastern Europe and then they were missioned to go back to SA and begin operations against the apartheid system. There was a significant increase and escalation of armed actions in 1976 to 1979 with almost 37 of them taking place in June 1976 to December 1978. The MK sabotage bombed the Bantu administration offices, upgrading the group's approach from the phase of the sabotage campaign to the first phase of guerrilla war. The guerrilla warfare run from 1979 to 1990 aiming to weaken the socio-political, economic, and military power of the SA government through a series of political and military actions. One of the central operational MK headquarters was established by Joe Modize and Joe Slovo. Apart from police stations, the MK units started to attack oil refineries, the Koeberg nuclear plant, and also, military personnel following the security forces' attacks on SA civilians. During the 1980s, the MK conducted a series of bombings such as the Church Street bombing in 1983, the Amanzimtoti bombing on the Natal South Coast in 1985, the bombing in a bar at Durban beachfront in 1986 and the Johannesburg court bombing in 1987. In 1988 the armed group conducted a bomb attack, killing 3 people outside a magistrate court, and a car bomb at the Ellis Park Stadium in Johannesburg killing 37 civilians. In the mid and late 1980s, MK played a significant role in the success of the African Revolution in Angola. The Angolan government at the time was attacked by the National Union for the Total Independence of Angola, UNITA, the South African Defense Force, SADF, and the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, in a conflict running between the 1970s and early 1980s. During this period the armed wing of the ANC contributed to the revolution, offering personnel, material, and equipment while fighting in various battles in the region. MK used guerrilla warfare and effectively cooperated with the Angolan population in the towns and cities that its cadres operated. The group achieved to defend the route from the now Democratic Republic of the Congo, then Zaire, to Luanda despite the heavy presence of the UNITA SADF CIA forces in the capital, significantly contributing to the overall success of the African Revolution in Angola. In June 1961, Mandela sent a letter to South African newspapers warning the government that a campaign of sabotage would be launched unless the government agreed to call for a national constitutional convention. Beginning on December 16, 1961, the campaign by Umkhonto we Sizwe with Mandela as its leader, was launched, with bomb attacks on government targets and planned for possible guerrilla warfare. The first target of the campaign was an electricity substation. Umkhonto we Sizwe undertook other acts of sabotage in the next 18 months. The government alleged more acts of sabotage had been carried out, and at the Rivonia trial the accused would be charged with 193 acts of sabotage in total. The sabotage included attacks on government posts, machines and power facilities, and crop burning. Opinions in the ANC were divided on the viability of the ANC launching a military campaign, and for this reason MK did not immediately publicly associate itself with the ANC. Initial attacks were characterized by their simplicity, reflecting the Africans' lack of military training and the fact the whites had not seen service, in most cases, since the Second World War. The state responded with laws that allowed detention without trial and an unlimited power to ban organizations, and also by establishing military and civilian intelligence organizations. MK planned a campaign called Operation Omayabai, or Operation Mayabai, from Lily's Leaf Farm, where they met in secret. In 1962, Mandela went to Algeria, Egypt, and Ghana to get international backing for the group. After returning to South Africa, Joe Slovo reportedly complained that they had sent Mandela off to Africa a communist and he came back an African nationalist. In December 1962, Look Smart and Goodall and Dennis Goldberg helped to organize a training camp held at Mamre, outside Cape Town, later recognized as the first MK training center inside South Africa. However, it had to be abandoned early due to security police interest. Thank you for watching this video.